to We Just Want a Podcast. I'm Carol.
I'm Liana.
And I'm Donna.
And we have a special guest today. Welcome, Harold.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Harold.
Good to
Thanks
be
for
here.
being here.
No
Yeah,
problem.
so Harold is our first guest co-host, is what we're gonna call it. And it's because of the topic we're talking about today, Asian culture or Asian upbringing. All of us are different kinds of Asian. So first off, I'm Taiwanese.
I'm Filipino.
I'm Malaysian and Vietnamese.
And I'm Indian.
So we all have different kinds of Asians here just to kind of bring different perspectives in Asian culture, Asian upbringing. All of our childhood are very different, and even how our parents raised us could be different as well. So we kind of wanted to bring different perspectives into what it is like being an Asian American. So start off, just a general question I'd like to ask you all is, what does it mean to be an Asian American in our society today? Anyone can start.
I can go first. So I was thinking that being Asian American in this world is just having a different identity and upbringing different from the people that I'm growing up around. Going through elementary school, the neighborhoods that I was in were mainly white or Hispanic. College, I went to Santa Barbara for 2 years, primarily white. Only once I came back to San Jose State was there were a lot of other people that were very similar to me, I would say.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's a marriage of both Eastern and Western cultural values. I actually came here to the United States in 2005 from Malaysia. So now that I kind of spent about 15 years here, I found myself as a young adult to kind of hold that both values in my life currently. So that's what it means by being Asian American.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Liana. I was technically Filipino first and then American just because I was born in the Philippines. I got to truly kind of embrace both sides of what I am, just staying here in America, just because I got to see every other culture more and then make that myself as an American.
I was going to ask Harold a question because Donna and Liana both said they were born outside of the United States. But Harold, were you born in the United States or outside?
I was born outside. I was born in India. But
what? Look at this! Immigrant gang! Let's go!
Yeah.
What? I did not know that!
Not many people know, just because I moved here when I was 3. So most of my upbringing, I don't really remember being from 0 to 3 there. And I was basically raised here. I don't have an accent or anything like that. So.
Oh, interesting. So I guess out of all of us, I'm the only one who was actually born here in the United States.
That's pretty dope to me. I don't have a lot of friends or a group of friends. I'm always the outside, one outside born in the country, never really in a group of immigrants in a way.
Yeah. And I can't even tell you guys have accents. So it's I wouldn't even tell that you weren't born in America, but I guess it just depends on where your upbringing is or how long ago you were brought into the United States. So I think for me with being born in America and having Asian parents who always wanted to, embody the Asian culture within my world. So when I was very young, I went to Chinese school, and I went to Chinese school for pretty much all 12 years of the school system. Actually, no, I'll take that back. I think it was 11 years because my senior year of high school, I didn't go because that was AP Chinese and I didn't want to go through AP Chinese.
Dang!
Wow, high school.
So that was the last part. And then when my teacher asked me if I want to do AP Chinese, I was like, no, I'm going to enjoy senior year. So yeah, I did go to Chinese school, but I feel when I was really young, I didn't really appreciate being Asian American because everyone around me spoke English. We went to American school together. So for me, I was if for me to fit in, I have to be more American than more Asian. But then as I grew up, I started appreciating more of my difference of being Asian than just being American, because everyone here is all different kinds of ethnicities and culture, yet we all say we're American. But I think what makes us unique and different is the culture that our parents embodied in us from very young. And I didn't really appreciate that until I got older.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I really do think that being Asian American is really important in our society, just because like, even though we say we're American, we also have this different ethnicity or identity to look into or become for that reason. So let's talk about our childhood in terms of Asian culture. So in terms, how was your childhood growing up? Like, did your parents put you into like Asian school just like my parents did, or how did you like learn your own language and all that stuff just to like hold on to that Asian culture?
So for me, I didn't have any school. My parents legit sent us back to the Philippines every summer. That was our real authentic learning. We're going on a trip. We are going on a plane and we're flying back home. And then that kind of made me realize like how different life was in America compared to Philippines. And that kind of humbled ourselves, how like if my parents didn't make the decision to come to America, I legit would have, my classmates would have been these kids I'm talking to right now. Like a lot of my friends, them being born here, they get to say like going back to my motherland, but legit, I'm going back to my native land. And that's like kind of like the craziest part of me trying to embrace and going, kind of stay rooted back to where I was originally from. But no school. All of it is authentically learning, cutting the pig, living during the flood and everything.
That's insane, Donna. So like, you went to school there too during the summer,
or just visit family?
Yeah. So during our summertime in America, they had school in the Philippines. So it was already school time. And my parents were teachers back in the Philippines. So of course we'd always go back to the elementary schools and just sit there and try to embrace ourselves inside a classroom. So technically, yeah, I was learning, but I was just more kind of like staring around and kind of, immerse myself inside that culture.
Wow. Did you make any like lifelong friends, and they knew that you were going to come back in the summer, but then you're like, okay, peace, see you next year? Or I don't know, like
when I was younger, yeah. So there was like this picture when I was super like a baby of a boy kissing me in the cheek, and every summer I'd always like his face, a face I can always recognize. So every summer I would always go back and he's one of the people that I would always hang out with. But I stopped going to the Philippines right before high school, just because I was doing a lot of extracurricular activities in the summertime where I couldn't go back to the Philippines. So when I went to the Philippines recently, a lot of those people who would have been like my classmates, they're all moms, and like it's kind of a whole different style. So I kind of don't recognize them, because even then, like I have such a baby face here, but like if I were to stay in the Philippines, I don't think I would look the same either.
I would go to Taiwan almost every summer, not summer, but I used to go in the winter when I was really, really young. And then I started going towards the summer because it was a longer summer break or longer break from school. Because I would have to miss like 3 weeks of school before winter break just to go in the winter time. And then so my mom was like, yeah, let's just go in the summertime. So I would still go every year, but then towards the summertime. And then that's kind of how I learned more of how to speak Mandarin, not besides from Chinese school, because Chinese school is like with your American friends. So you would like speak English more often than you would speak Chinese.
Yeah.
And then when I went to Taiwan, I would have to speak to my grandparents in Mandarin so I can actually communicate with them, because they didn't really know English at the time. And even like watching Taiwanese series like really helped me understand Mandarin better, because if I wanted to understand what was going on in the show, then I would have to like practice. So I think my Mandarin got better as I was watching Taiwanese drama series, but then like after I stopped in like high school, then it kind of got progressively worse, and now I can't really speak that much well.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I'm trying to learn a new language, or if I'm watching like some foreign show, I always tend to pick up the language a lot better, whether it's like, just having an everyday conversation or just learning the slang. Yeah, totally agree. But I guess I can dive into my childhood. So like I said, I grew up in Malaysia until I was about in the 5th grade. it was a very simple life for my family and I. We didn't have much, but we definitely had a big family. And I just remember like going to school, like regular school, and from like 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then I would come home. But then we also had religious school for Islam. So that would happen from 4 to like 6. So that's for a couple hours during the day. So I actually can read Arabic, but till this day, I don't know what I'm reading. I can read it. I know the letters. I can write it. But can I translate it? No. But yeah, I think it was a very diverse culture that I grew up in. I even grew up watching Bollywood movies, actually. So like Kuchi Kuchi Hota Hai is my favorite movie. I used to watch it with like my grandma, my grandma, because the main populations in Malaysia are Chinese, Indian, and Malay. So I also remember like my parents actually wanted for me to go to a Chinese school to learn Cantonese. And I think I went for like a week and then, but we didn't have enough money, so I had to stop. So yeah, and I think I take a lot of pride in that because now as a young adult, like I just really appreciated the different flavors of how I grew up. Like I grew up celebrating Eid al-Fitr, which is an Islamic holiday. I celebrated Diwali because I had friends who's Indian. We also celebrated Chinese New Year, and I got hung paos. So I just look back at it fondly, and I still go back to Malaysia every 2 years. And I also still follow like my childhood friends on Instagram, because I don't know, I'm the type of person who actually kind of catches up with them when I go back. So yeah, that's how my childhood was. What about you, Harold?
For me, it's actually a little bit different than Liana. I like at least learning the language and everything. I probably went back home to India either every other year, or we would have my grandparents fly out here and stay with us for 6 months. And it was just through conversations that I would pick up the language and like get that a little bit better. Like I can definitely understand pretty fluently. My speaking is a little bit broken, but I mean, it gets me through any conversation I need. But like my parents, they both speak English. So that, like, I didn't learn as much from speaking with them because I always spoke English with them, but it was mainly from my grandparents. But well, the way I was saying it's a little different than Liana is I didn't really have that much of the cultural, like we didn't really do a lot of Indian movies, celebrating Indian festivals. And I think that was also because I grew up Christian. So if we were celebrating any holidays, it was more a Christian holiday rather than like Diwali or Holi or other like things that a lot of other Indians celebrate. Or even like in terms of Indian entertainment, like Bhangra or that type of dancing, like that was never a thing that I was into, or I didn't even really know about that until I was in high school. And I saw other Indian friends in my high school on like an Indian Bhangra team, you know? And that was just something that my parents never really did, and they never really brought that to me, you know? Yeah.
I see. Yeah, it's kind of difficult, right? Like I think I know that like after I came here, I really had to make an effort to kind of stay in touch with my culture in a way. Like, for example, my youngest brother, he was born in Malaysia, but he came here when he was 2 years old. So around the same age that you came here, Harold. So he can't speak Malay. He can understand it. But I think my understanding of Malay culture is a little bit more than his because I have memories associated with it. But if you were never really like
immerse himself in it.
Yeah.
It's like you know about it, but I'm sure, like for example, Harold, when you go back to India, do they look at you as like, oh, he's Americanized right away? Like they can tell?
They definitely do, but like at least compared to my brothers who are similar to your brother, they understand Tamil, but they can't speak it at all. And when I go to India, you know, and people hear me speaking Tamil, they're actually very amazed at the proficiency that I can speak in. you know, considering that I've pretty much grown up in America. They do see me as Americanized, but they also can relate very well, and they can, like, when we have conversations, nothing is lost in conversation because of a language barrier, in terms of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way too, because like whenever I speak Mandarin, because I went through Chinese school for a very long time, when I speak Mandarin to like other adults and when I visit Taiwan, they're all like, "Oh, your Chinese is very good." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's because I went to Chinese school." But if I didn't go to Chinese school and I just like learned from my parents, I think it'd be a lot more broken back then. But I think now like my Mandarin's a lot more broken than before, so I'm probably at the level where they think I should have been at. So it's pretty cool how like all of us have like different upbringings in terms of like Donna, where she still is related to her Filipino culture because she goes back every so often. And even with Liana, like celebrating different holidays, like I really think that that helps you, you know, stay connected to your culture, even though you're still here in America and surrounded by other ethnicities who are also American. And then I actually didn't know you were Christian, Harold. I thought you were like Hindu or something. So it's actually pretty cool just to see like those differences. Um, so do you guys do you guys have the mindset of appreciating that Asian difference, or did you have the idea growing up that you needed to be more American than Asian? Because like I mentioned it earlier, for me, like being born in America, I always thought that I needed to be more American than Asian because of fitting in with friends who are different cultures, but the similarity was being American. So I definitely felt that growing up, but now I'm just like, I like being Asian American because of the differences. So what about you guys?
I grew up actually with a lot of Filipinos around me. It was more like embracing which Filipino culture. So, you know, in the Philippines, there's around 200 languages. And people are like, I'm Tagalog, which is like the main language. But I'm Ilocano, which is like a different dialect. So I'm trying to represent that even more to my Filipino friends. So I never had to really fight for like my identity as a Filipino. It's now more of which Filipino culture I identify myself with. But like growing up, because especially in the east side of San Jose, there was a lot more Asians than I thought there was going to be. So knowing there was Vietnamese, Filipinos, even like Hmongs and Cambodians, like I knew all of that culture growing up. So I never had a really much of a problem trying to say I'm Asian first.
Wow. Well, for me, I do remember when I was growing up, when I first came here, I wanted to fit in right away. Like if people were eating Twinkies or Twizzlers, I was like, okay, I love it too, even though I hated it. And so, but now it's like, I realize that that's what makes me special. I don't think I've ever met a Malaysian Vietnamese American. And so for sure, when I was growing up, it's like, I wish I was always one way or the other, because I felt like I was never belonged to one type. But now I think I'm at that place where it's like, no, like just embrace it, and whatever that means for me, I will define it, and other people will, like last episode, like people define you as you define yourself. So now it's like I identify as Malaysian Vietnamese American. Does that make sense?
I got a question though. Who's Vietnamese in your family? Or is it you guys are Vietnamese like who are based in Malaysia?
So my mom is Vietnamese and my dad is Malaysian.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love your mom. I didn't know. Oh, so cute.
Wait, so did your mom move to Malaysia for like a reason, and then that's how she just met your dad there, kind of?
So, okay, so basically my mom was one of the boat people after the Vietnam War. He was the refugees. So she came here with her older sister, and she's the youngest of 9. So she went to college here at CSU Stanislaus, and then she met my dad at college. But then once they got married, they went back to Malaysia. But then she had a US citizenship, so that automatically went to her children, aka us. So so then I have dual citizenship as well. Yeah.
So it looks like you identify more with the Malaysian side than the Viet side, right? Even though you still label yourself as both. So do you still have any like Vietnamese traditions or like customs that you still kind of follow?
Yeah, so we celebrate Tet, but not like a super big celebration. You're right, because I think it's the reason why I lean more towards the Malay side is because I grew up there. And I kind of, admittedly, I kind of put the Vietnamese side on the back burner because when I was in Malaysia, I didn't speak Vietnamese. No one was Vietnamese around me except for my mom. But then when I came here and being alongside like San Jose, which is like a central for Vietnamese people, I was like, oh shit, I've been missing out on so many things, like the food, like the culture and everything. And so it opened up my eyes. So yeah, so I kind of want to learn more about my Vietnamese side now because I have the full understanding of it. But yeah, you're right. Like I kind of lean more towards it because I actually experienced it firsthand.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way because my dad's actually Cantonese. Growing up, I didn't really know how to speak Cantonese, and because my dad's parents knew Cantonese more than Mandarin, my dad basically had to be a translator between me and my grandparents, which was kind of sad because like I spoke to my mom's parents really well because they speak Mandarin in Taiwan, but I wasn't able to communicate well with my dad's parents because of that language barrier. So I kind of see where you're coming from and like being more associated with one culture over another, even though they're both technically Chinese. It's like it's a different dialect that I never really got to learn, and then that kind of hindered my communication with my grandparents on my dad's side because I didn't know that language. So even with my cousins, like they know more Canto than Mandarin, and whenever I hear them speaking Canto to either their parents, which is my dad's siblings, or my grandparents, like I always kind of felt jealous that I didn't know that language because I wasn't able to speak with my own grandparents. So kind of wish I did. I tried to get my dad to teach me, but they were so basic words that it wasn't enough for me to have a conversation with anybody on my dad's side. So that's kind of like one regret, or not one regret, but something I wished I learned growing up.
And I think language, you pick it up easier when you learn it younger too. When you try to pick up a new language when you're older, it's so much harder.
I know. And you have to be surrounded by people that speak that same language. So you're always like listening to how people talk. Because even though now I don't really know how to speak Mandarin back as well, I can completely understand it. And like, I'll even ask my mom, like, how do I say this word so I can communicate back? But then I know how to like listen to it and understand the general like meaning.
For me, I think, like I said, like our family, like not just me, but my whole family was never really into Indian festivals, Indian holidays, Indian traditions as much. I think, we all pretty much were trying to identify as American. Even with cooking, like my mom would make some Indian food, but we would do a lot of experimentation. We're just trying to learn how to cook different American pastas, making pizza, just trying to be, more like everyone else, I would say. But I think where I definitely saw the Indian upbringing was just in the parenting style. It was definitely like compared to my friends, like I definitely had like a more restrictive childhood. Both because of the Indian parenting style plus being Christian. So both of those put together, I wasn't really hanging out with friends throughout high school, except for church friends. So my family was definitely trying to fit in, like not just myself being the child, but like even my mom, like even though she did some Indian cooking, she would definitely want to cook more American foods, whether it's making pastas, pizzas, lasagnas, just trying to make everything seem like we were just like everyone else. I think where I see the difference and really see the Indian upbringing, as well as the Christian upbringing, is just on my restrictions as a kid. I definitely didn't party as much throughout high school. I actually didn't even drink alcohol until I moved out of my family's house. And I think going through the time, I had a lot of other Indian church guy friends who were going through the same thing. So I wasn't ever feeling like, oh, like I'm missing out because if I'm not partying with school friends, I'm just hanging out with other guys friends who are also going through the same type of parenting, same kind of culture. When I went into college, and heard about all my other college friends about all the stuff that they did as high schoolers, I was like, man, I missed out. I didn't really live my best self in high school. But I also think that doing that would not have made me so much better of a person or anything. It's not like that took away from anything from who I am right now. I probably didn't like being brought up in that restrictive manner when I was going through it. But now looking back, I can see like my dad's understanding or my dad's way of doing things. And even though he might have been like very extreme in some ways, like he's also mellowed down, and I can see that in my brothers. My brothers definitely get a little bit more freedom than I did, so it's like finding that balance, and he's becoming a better American parent, and it's good for them too, so.
So you're the oldest, Harold?
Mm-hmm. I have 2 younger brothers, and they're 7.5 years and 8.5 years younger than me.
Yeah, dude, I totally agree. Like, I feel like the oldest, I'm the oldest too. Like, we get the brunt of the discipline. And then I look at my like sister and my brother, they're chilling. I'm like, what the hell?
Excuse me, I am the second oldest of 5. Me and my older sister were born in the Philippines, and we got 3 American children living in the house, living the American dream. Oof, I understand that 10 times.
My youngest brother, he actually he dyed his hair blue like 3 years ago. Literally 2 days ago, he pierced his ears. He's just like living his best life right now.
So cute.
Is it like electric blue? Dang, that's
yeah. Yeah, it was but that's all gone now. Now it's the ear piercing that's his new thing.
So, Harold, growing up, did you always felt like you needed to be rebellious because of the restrictions? Because I did, for my instance.
I think like going through high school, I didn't really have too much of a rebellious phase, but it was more like as soon as I hit college, it's like all that pent up, just blew up,
The Hell's Gate opened up during college for all of us.
Yeah. It's like I've been missing out on all this stuff for the past 4 years. Time to get started on this, So I think I kind of went overboard once I got into college rather than like kind of moderately partying.
I would always remember in high school, I would always have to lie to my parents to say where I'm at, because if I'm like at like either a hangout or a party where there was like the opposite sex, then they wouldn't let me go. So I would always have to lie and say, oh, I'm studying, or oh, I'm hanging out with my girlfriends, when I'm actually with my girlfriends and guy friends. And it was like, yeah, I definitely remember that. And I kind of was restricted in a way just because I was an Asian girl, because a lot of Asian parents are more strict on their daughters than their sons. And so and I was the oldest as well. So it's like I was the oldest and then I was a girl. So they were just like always checking up on me to see where I am and like when I'm going to come home. And then they would like collect my friends' parents' numbers just to like contact them if I wasn't picking up. So I went through that in high school and even college, and being with DSP, like I was still going through that, but a little bit more toned down. But my parents would still call me at like midnight asking where I am, and I'm like hanging out with DSP people. So it didn't really stop until probably like a 1 or 2 years before I graduated college, just because I started even being more rebellious because they kept checking up on me. And I told them like, I can handle myself. I'm 19, 20 years old and I can I'm adult. And then so that kind of really helps. And also like being able to drive, because I didn't get my license until I was 18. And so like being 18, didn't had my license but still couldn't drive yet. I was still kind of restricted because I relied on either taking the bus home or getting my parents to come all the way to San Jose to come pick me up. And then once I got my own car and then was able to kind of be more independent that way, that kind of chilled a little bit. So yeah, I can see where that rebellious restrictiveness comes in.
Many Indian girlfriends who had gone through the same thing, like our parents were definitely strict, but their parents would be like over the top strict, you know. I had one friend who I don't think she ever even hung out, like went out for coffee with friends until like her senior year of high school. Like it was like if she's gonna hang out, like it's gonna be at her house, you know, like her friends would come there where her parents can see everything that's happening.
Yeah, my parents were never, they were strict, for sure. In high school, like I would come home at like 2 a.m. But like so I was rebellious in that way, but in college, I think that I was so rebellious in high school that they're like used to it in a way. Um, but I think I'm pretty lucky where my parents, they don't hold on too tight to my siblings and I. I think that they have this understanding where we're here for you. You can make your own mistakes. You'll learn anyway. And so I just, now that I grew up, it's like I know that they cared because they would call me for sure, like midnight or something, if I'm still not home. But it wasn't to the point where I had to lie and tell them that I was I was somewhere, or I can kind of give them the truth, but it was also white lies too. Does that make sense? Like,
No, yeah.
So it's a balance. Like, of course, I'm not gonna tell them like I'm partying and like, you know, drinking or something, but it's more like, hey mom, I'm at my friends. If I'm home late, don't worry. You can, and I would still reply to their text, just because, you know, like I think parents, they want the best for us, and you have to understand where they're coming from. But also, like, I also made sure that they know when they're being too much and I have to live my life, and I would tell them that. So
Sounds like your parents were more respectful of that than my parents were, because they were like, what do you mean I have to like that you're an adult? Like, I can check up on you. I'm your parent still.
No, they did that for sure.
Oh.
But I think, like, for example, like my dad is more of the stricter one. Like, for example, I remember I can't even wear short skirts or anything like that. Like, till this day, he'll be like, you're wearing that? I'm like, yeah. But then like my mom will be like, it's okay, it looks cute. Or like there's always that offset between my mom and my dad. So it's both. Yeah.
I mean, my parents, they cared, but they didn't care too. As long as we went to church on Sunday, that was like their biggest thing, because they knew that how big religious our Catholic religion is to us. So as long as we're following like those virtues, and then we go to church on Sunday, my parents really don't care how late are we. They didn't like, they did care about what grades we got, but you know, we still got high grades, even though they didn't even push it onto us. Like the fact that we got what they wanted without saying something, and we went to church. My parents were good on what we did. I think also growing up with 5 kids, my parents were, you know, like teaching the ones younger, the ones after me, so they were really up on me. If I went, like, especially being in college, like I didn't go home for days. Like I would not go home for 5 days straight, and they wouldn't care where I am, you know. But I'll text them what I'm doing, and my sister will see me at school too. But they weren't as pressed upon me unless like my little brother said something. So it's more like trying to raise my brother than like looking up on me being in college and all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even then, like, there's 4 girls, 1 boy in my family. So my parents, like, kind of opposite of Liana, my dad embraces being a girl dad. So he watches like girl empowerment. Like I've seen him watch like women talk shows, and, you know, trying to understand the thought of Asian American women, especially last month when it was
Oh.
women's month, right? International Women's Month. There was a segment in the one of the Filipino channels where it's all like women speakers, and my dad, and my sisters, we were legit all watching it together,
Oh.
and I could see my dad like really paying attention to it, especially because me and then my younger sister, now she graduated college. My youngest sister is now in college, and we're all starting to date and all of that. So he's trying to immerse himself being as an Asian American girl dad, and then I didn't realize that growing up, but now I think he's more embracing that role because he ain't gonna have no more kids. Like, four girls, one boy. He's good with that. So I think he's embracing his role now as an Asian American girl dad.
Wow.
That's so cute.
I got a question for the. Did you guys ever get bullied for your name? Not really bullied, but like people questioned, like who you are based on your name. I only asked that because when I moved to America, right, when your teacher asks, "Oh, what's your name?" And then, as a kid, I was like, "Oh, my name is Donna." And then, you write your name out, and growing up, no one ever questioned my name is spelled Dana, pronounced Donna. Everyone kind of accepted because everyone around me was Asian American, right? And I only had white teachers. They would give me a look, but I never really kind of looked upon that. So like the conversation's always like, "Oh, what's your name?" And I'll be like, "My name is Donna." "Oh, but it's spelled as Dana." "But my name is pronounced Donna. I was born in the Philippines. There's no vowels in the Philippines.
That's right.
What's your name?"
Mm-hmm.
And then they would go on with their boring name. And I'm like, exactly. Filipinos don't do that. And they're like, "How can your name be pronounced Donna if it's, consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel?" And I'm like, "Well, what about the name Llama? Llama. You don't go Lama? Lama? Like, hello, my pronunciation is my pronunciation. You don't mess with that. It was given to me." Oh, that always irked me growing up. And then when people try to correct me, I'm like, "No, shut up. I'm not in your culture. This is my culture. This is my pronunciation. Leave it."
Yeah. There you go. That's right, Donna. If I was there, I'd be like, yes.
I would have never guessed that though, because when I see like DNAN, like I would also like it would make sense to me that Dana could be Donna too with the same spelling.
Right?
So
because the all can be a consonant sound. It's a short A. People don't understand. Like, where were you learning your letters? There's long vowels and short vowels. My name happens to be a short vowel name. My Lord. Oh, that got me the biggest ooh. Let me go off real quick. That was the biggest thing ever in my entire life.
Wow. Yeah, no, I didn't really. I mean, I have a very long name. My full name is Nurul Maliana Binti Roslin. So I shortened it to Liana because I thought that it was just cuter. I thought that it was cuter. So yeah, people roll with it. Like I said, people go do what you want to do for yourself.
Yeah.
Liana, when did you switch from Maliana or your full name to just Liana? Was it like when you first came into the United States or?
Yeah, because when I first came here, like they were pronouncing like Melina, never Maliana. For some reason, the white people just couldn't do it, and I'm like, here, I'll make it easy for you. Yeah. So I just did it to Liana.
For my name, it's like a very white name. My full name is Harold Charlton Daniel. So
Cute.
I never really got the like Indian part of the name. If anyone made fun of my name, it would be like, "Hey, my name's Harold," and they'll be like, "Oh, where's Kumar?" Or shouldn't you be Kumar? And that would be like the only thing, And I kind of got bugged about it at first, but like through middle school and high school. But then in college, I just started introducing myself like, "Hey, my name is Harold," like Harold and Kumar. And this way you'll never forget, And I just kind of embraced it. And then no one ever forgot my name, So I just kind of went with the flow with that. So
I'm curious, your last name is like a very white last name. Like, is that how did that come about?
So also funny story with the Harold and Kumar thing. In India, I guess our family didn't really do last names. We had surnames. So my dad's name was Suresh Kumar. His full name was Suresh Kumar. No, not full name. His first name was Suresh Kumar. And when he moved here, they asked him what's his last name, and he took my grandfather's first name. So my grandfather's first name is Daniel, and that's why I got it. But there are a lot of other Indians who actually just split their first name. And so he could have just made it Suresh space Kumar, and then I would have had the last name Kumar. And there's a lot of people who have the last name Kumar because Kumar is like the second half of a full name. But I just got my grandfather's first name, and it worked. And I think he did that just because like our whole family's Christian. So Daniel being a Christian last name worked out well. Yeah.
So then all your siblings have the last name Daniel, and then does your dad also keep the last name Daniel, or he kept his original name?
He also has the last name Daniel, and my grandfather's name was Daniel Rajasingham. So that was probably his dad's name that he took down.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm really surprised because actually my last name is Roslyn, but that's my dad's first name. And then my dad's last name is Abdullah because Abdullah is my grandpa's first name. I thought we were the only ones who did that.
Yeah. Yep, I guess we did too.
Let's go to Malaysia lah.
Oh, yelah.
Yelah.
Well, so that's like a fun thing that we do, that we add la at the end of the sentence. So Donna, I guess you have a few other Malaysian friends, so.
I do. I love it. They go la. I go la. Love it. I love it.
So fun fact about me. So kind of the whole blended of being Taiwanese and Cantonese. So with my Chinese name, in Mandarin, it's pronounced as Zhen instead of Yan. So Yan is actually the Cantonese pronunciation of the same Chinese character. So when you're saying my Cantonese or my Chinese name in Cantonese, it says Yan San Loi. And then when you say it in Mandarin, is Zhen Xin Lei. So that's why like I went with the Canto version of it, but then when you like meet my cousins, like they all have the Zen last name. So it's kind of weird where like we have basically the same last name, but it's spelled differently in English because of the pronunciation that we go by.
What?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to my middle name has an I in it, so it's Samilin. But all my cousins in the Philippines has it Smelin, and that's because one of the teachers in my mom's school said that her last name was ugly, so they changed all of it to I to make it more prettier. So like the English version is Samilin, because then it's uglier with the E according to the book, and so they changed all of the younger ones to an I now. And I was like, what? They can just change a little like that. My whole identity is, tarnished.
So another question I had was, what is a trait you appreciated learning about your Asian culture and that you've carried on today?
I think it's true of Indians as well as most Eastern cultures relative to Western cultures. And I think that's just respect for elders and respect within family. I remember like my dad, like there was one time where I was like telling my dad something and I referred to my mom as she rather than mom. I said like, she said this rather than mom said this. And my dad got like pissed at me, and he was like, you have to address her properly. You have to address her as mom, And at that time I was just like, this is like, you're just getting mad at me for no reason, But I really like that respect for elders, and it doesn't really change like once I'm an adult, as if like once I'm 18 now suddenly like we're on equal terms. Like I still have to have that respect for anyone older than me, because they've gone through life more. And even with like our language, if some adult is not my relative, I still address them as uncle or auntie.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
And in Tamil, like I'll address older boys and girls as Anna or Akka, which means older sister or older brother, even if there is no relation, and it just puts family at like the center of the culture, which I think is really cool.
It's funny because like, how, the Philippines, we do that too. We kind of, if you're in the same lineage as like our parent or grandparent, you kind of accustom that to the aunt, uncle. grandma, grandpa type of level. And that's why people think we're like Filipinos have such big families, because we address everyone as an aunt, uncle, grandma, and grandpa. I'm like, no, we don't know where they're from, but as long as they're in the same age as one or the other, that's where they're going.
I see. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, Harold. I think we're very respectful of our elders. And then for me, I'm very family oriented because of the values that was instilled in me. And I think that in Western culture, you're kind of like growing up like every man for his own.
Yeah.
But I think that now it's like I understand like how big of a family is when I'm growing up.
I mean, you guys already know, like, for me, like, being Filipino itself is, family is number one. But even with that, I kind of learned how to be prideful, but in a good way too. And like I said, embrace who I am. They always say proud to be Pinoy. And then every time a Filipino does something, whether they're in America, whether they lived in Italy, in Australia, or in the Philippines, if they know someone's Filipino, they take pride in that. Like, they came from our own. When I came back from the Philippines, I actually got a tattoo on my right shoulder. It says Manang on it, which means older sister. And then that kind of reminds me of my older sisters, like my cousins, my older sister, and like even like older friends who acted as a big sister to me, but also as a reminder to act as a big sister to those younger than me, to also influence them. And then I did it in the language just because of my roots, where I am Ilocano. And even like the print of it, it's a typewriter, and that's for my nanang, because she was a secretary, and that family embodiment was like, I wanted that inside of me. But yeah, being prideful, Filipino, that's it.
Okay, well, yeah, like the both of you guys, where family is super important to me as well, because I think that when I first came here, everybody was kind of like, oh, you live your own life. You can do whatever you want. It's very individualistic.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with growing up as Malaysian and Vietnamese, I think it's more about the collective of everyone. Like, your success is their success as well. So I kind of grew up knowing that, like, without my parents making that decision to come here for a better life, we wouldn't be where we are right now. And I also really understand the privilege that we have here in America in terms of being able to provide more. But of course, like, I also miss having a big family, and I'm kind of jealous of that with you, Donna, because like, my dad's side of the family is in Malaysia. My mom's side, most of them are in Vietnam. So, like, I miss that. But like I said, to know that no matter where we are, we're all just connected, it means a lot. So yeah, I think it's more of the collective value instead of just living for your own self. Life became a lot more meaningful for me to know that all these people are rallied behind me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Liana. I didn't really have a big family growing up. Like, I think I have more cousins on my dad's side than my mom's side, just because my mom's siblings never married. And so, like, I wish I had that big family. But I feel like with my specific family, and it kind of relates to what Harold and Donna were saying, how like it really puts you into perspective on how you treat your family and especially your elders. Just because, like, I would go to Taiwan every year, and then I would see my grandparents, and my mom would say, like, oh, you can't eat dinner before your grandpa because your grandpa's the oldest. And so we would always gather around the table, and then me and my brother would already be like sitting like ready to eat because we're so hungry. But like, if my grandma or grandpa are doing something, then we couldn't eat without them. So it's just like really understanding that, like, the eldest person gets to start the dinner before we can all eat together, and then also just that we respect our elders, I guess.
So there are some of people in my family who are the same age as me or the same age as my younger brother. So my younger brother is 17. And so I have nieces and nephews who are actually either older than my brother or slightly like younger. So I have like a nephew who is 18 and then his little sister is 17, same age as my brother, but my dad insists them that he must call my brother uncle. Like, even though that's kind of weird for us, but it's in a way trying to respect the lineage in the family. So even though we're the same age, but based on where we are in the family line, they have to call like me and my brother aunt and uncle, just to show the respect of where you are in the family.
Cool. I got one last question for you guys. Well, what is one thing you wished you spent more time knowing about your Asian culture growing up?
For me, I think I wish I had a deeper understanding of my Vietnamese culture. I remember I was pretty ignorant. Like, for example, when I first heard the Vietnamese language and I said to my Mom, it sounds just like the Chinese language. She was about to like,
no, it's not.
I know it's not.
No, it's not. I can tell you that right now.
Definitely
She's like, put respect to my language. I hear you. I hear you.
Respect. Oh my God. I know. I'm sorry. Okay, but yeah, so I think I wish I knew that when I was younger because it's so different. And for me to know the rich heritage behind my mom and the resilience of the people now, and I have that blood in me, like I wish I knew way younger and had more deeper appreciation of it. So that's what I wish I knew.
Same with me. I wish I knew more Canto, that, like I said earlier, and that way I can speak to my dad's side of the family. Even though Canto culture compared to like just regular Chinese culture is not that much different, it's just like another language barrier that I wish I didn't have.
I think for me, it would probably be like being more in tune with like the Indian holidays and festivals. I think the reason my family didn't go into that as much was because they do have like some ties to Hinduism or different religions aside from Christianity. But I think I would still want to know, like experience them and just, not for the religious aspect, but for the people and the gathering of people, and just having something else to relate with other Indians that I see in the Bay Area.
So I wish I embraced my skin tone a little bit more. Like, I will admit that when I was younger, I did use whitening soap. And, going to the Philippines, I saw a lot of whitening soap being sold. And so I did buy some as a little kid. And then coming to America, I, used it on me because a lot of my friends, they were more light skinned than I am. So I used the whitening soap before, but right now I'm kind of embracing my brown skin, going to the Philippines and looking at all the little kids and them living their brown skin. That kind of like reassured to me that they don't have the same kind of stigma, because whitening, like being that white color, it showed that, what's that term? That superior, that you are clean or whatever. But I think right now with that brown skin, it doesn't really like show our class. It shows our pride and stuff like that. But I think right now colorism is like the biggest thing that the Philippines and Filipino Americans are kind of tackling, because Filipinos come in like different colors, so the mestizas and the chinitos, but all of that is just embracing what we got. That's all I want. That's all I wanted to do. That's what I should have done when I was younger.
Yeah, and I think in like Asian culture versus Western culture, like the beauty standards are very different too. Because like in Taiwan, the more light skin and pale you are, the prettier you are. But here it's like the exact opposite. If you're tan, then like you look beautiful. So it's like it's kind of different standards, and I can totally see where that comes from.
Do you guys see, like, I think right now, I kind of see the world as just being more, like, people are getting into more interracial marriage, intercultural marriage, interreligious marriage too. So I personally look forward to that. I think with our mixed, diverse melting pot, we have a deeper opportunity to have empathy, to have compassion. So, like, I don't know, what do you guys think?
That's a very interesting question, because I do see a lot more interracial marriage or something, whether it's religion, race, or just beliefs. I totally see where you're coming from in that aspect because my parents growing up always said like you need to date and marry a Chinese guy, and I don't think I've dated a Chinese guy since like college, like early college. So it's like kind of interesting to like see that it's being more common or at least more accepted of the interracial marriage or I'm just going to say inter something because it's not just race. But it all just depends on like what your beliefs are. And like I know some friends who do want someone who is in the same religion because they personally want the same values and morals as their partner. But then some people are like, well, I don't really practice that religion that much, so it's like I don't really care if they are a different religion or not. So I think for me, like I don't really care about race or religion because I'm not a religious person myself. If I had to identify with one, it'd be Buddhist, but even then I don't really practice it. I think at most I would just see my great grandparents where we visit them to like say prayers when we see them, or went back to Taiwan to visit them. That's when I would only go to Buddhist temple. But like other than that, I don't really do any Buddhist related stuff.
I think like at least with my dad, I think he definitely wants me to marry an Indian girl. But I think he also respects my choice if I decide not to. But he definitely prefers it's a Christian girl, obviously. And I think that, yeah, definitely society is moving towards a lot of interracial, inner everything marriages. But I also do think that people are attracted to people who are very similar to them, you know?
Yeah.
And who are very comfortable. We're more comfortable with people who have gone through the same backgrounds as us. Like if I see another Indian girl, I know like kind of what she's gone through growing up in America, you know, I can definitely relate with her parents like very well, you know, and I'm sure they'll be very comfortable with me, you know? So I think there are definitely like benefits to keeping the both interracial as well as same race marriages.
It's kind of funny. So this topic actually was like brought up during like one of our dinner times because one of my sisters, she's dating a Mexican, and then he's another type of Christian. He's not Catholic, and so this was the first time like someone outside our religion and outside like even the Asian culture, because we've dated Asians before, that my parents were kind of being introduced to. And so we asked them like, oh, so what happens if we were to marry someone who isn't Asian or Filipino and who isn't Catholic? And they said as long as they respect you and they respect the culture that you grew up in, then we're okay with anything. And then they kind of like gave us the green light, like, okay, like we can date. They're not having like a lot of restrictions, because what are they gonna do if we do date? Like that's them stopping us from loving. And they know that's like one of the worst things that they don't want to happen, that we're going to hate them because they don't love us.
I love that, because I think my family is the same way. I think though they have a preference, like I know my dad would probably prefer for me to marry a Muslim guy. I've personally never really dated any, just because one never came my way. So what's up? If you are, I'm open.
Hey, any Muslim boys? Hallelujah. Just kidding.
But yeah, but I think I was more attracted to like the cultural person. Like I dated a Vietnamese guy before, and like we just kind of clicked on the familial value. But yeah, I think that my family would accept whoever it is as long as they're respectful and they're just a good person in general. And let's say I want to have kids, I think I would want them to choose their own life too. I would tell them about their heritage and where I came from and where their dad came from and whatever beliefs. But at the end of the day, I think I want them to choose whatever makes them happy. And that's how I live my life too.
I mean, so all of us being Asian American, being in our young adults, what are you guys doing to kind of embrace that Asian side now? Because I know like before we were talking about trying to immerse yourself in American culture. So what are you guys doing now to embrace that Asian side?
For me, it's the Chinese holidays for sure. So like for Chinese New Year, for instance, I would always make that a priority to gather my family and do the Chinese New Year. As I'm now a working professional, in my culture, I actually do have to give red envelopes out compared to when I was younger and I was getting red envelopes. It's kind of mixed. So like my dad told me that if you're married, that's when you give red envelopes. But my mom said, like, if you're a working professional and you're earning an income, then you would give a red envelope. So I still get red envelopes because I'm not married technically, but because I'm a working professional, I started giving my little cousins red envelopes, and it's just like $1 or $2, so it's not much out of my pocket, but at least like it makes me feel like I'm older now, and now I have to give red envelopes to children. So it's just interesting to embody that tradition now, that when I was younger, I would be the one getting red envelopes, and then now I'm the one giving red envelopes to my little cousins. So that's kind of like how I embrace it. And also just appreciating Asian food now. Like, that's all I crave for. I don't really crave American food as much as Asian food. Like, my favorite food is like sushi and Korean barbecue, and like that's all I crave all the time.
Yeah, for me, on the topic of food, I think anytime anyone is curious about Malaysian culture, Vietnamese culture, the first thing I do is just take them to a restaurant, and I'll be like, this is what it's about. So whether if it's Malay, I would always show them rendang. I don't know if you guys had it, or laksa.
Take me next time.
Yeah, let's go la. After COVID is over, let's go la. We're waiting for the shelter in place to be finished. We're being safe.
Yes, not right now, but as soon as.
Yeah, or like if it's Vietnamese, I would take them to get bun xeo, or of course pho. But yeah, so I think food is such a universal way to show each other's culture.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Food, definitely. I think even when I was in Santa Barbara, I actually started even like trying to cook my own like Indian curries, and they kind of failed. It had like a little bit of it had the gist of what I was trying to do, you know. But I think like for me personally, like trying to get back into the Indian culture is just being in touch with all my relatives, because I have a lot of them, and they all definitely like want to hear updates about me, and they hear it through my dad, and I mainly just talk to my grandparents, and that's it. But I think like just being like more vocal and having conversations with them, you know, that would definitely improve my language, and also like connect on like what's going on in my life as well as what's going on in their lives in India, you know, and just being more aware about that.
Yeah.
Aww.
Those are so precious.
I mean, same way with me, like, because there's not a lot to do, I've been trying to learn more Filipino dishes. I know when I was younger, I was more like baking American desserts or like cooking pasta, but right now, because like I have a little more time, because making Filipino dishes takes a while and with all the ingredients, so just trying to learn those dishes, I think that's what I'm trying to do more. And like same thing as Harold, because last time when I went to the Philippines, it was 10 years before that since I went, and so now I'm talking to them a little bit more, trying to speak the Ilocano language and trying to see like we're paying attention to them even though we're kind of living our own lives.
Can you make adobo?
I did. I just made adobo. And then my sister graduated, and so we made lumpia and pancit. Oof. Not the best, but it's getting there. It's getting to the level I want it.
Dude, Donna, I feel like Malaysian and Filipino culture, we have some overlaps. Like, for example, you call it lumpia. We call our egg rolls popia.
Yeah, no, I was watching this YouTube video like Filipino versus like Malaysian, and then I couldn't tell the difference of who was Malay and who was Filipino. It was cute. I loved it. I'll show you the video later on.
Wow, that was a really great conversation.
It is.
It was. I think so. I think we touched on a lot of our differences, and like even with all my questions, we were able to like kind of branch out and like ask more. And I definitely learned a lot of new things that I didn't learn or that didn't know before. So it's cool.
Like even then, like another podcast, you know, there's a lot of like East Asian podcasts or, you know, South, you know, podcasts, but not really like an intermingle of every different areas of our Asian community. That's what I'm saying. But like even like our group of friends, how the four of us know each other personally, like the fact that we have different cultures and we're able to immerse ourselves and, you know, truly embrace our Asian and American side. It's pretty dope that we are blessed to be friends with different cultures, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, totally agree. I feel like with our conversation, it just kind of reinforced my belief that we're more similar than we are different. I know we have some quirks here and there where, of course, like the language is different, but at the heart of it all, it's like our values are the same. I think we should really celebrate that, especially this month.
Yeah, like raise your hand if your parents are strict. Raise your hand if you got a big ass family. Raise your hand if you have a weird last name. Like, we can all raise our hands to all of that, and that's kind of funny. Like, we can say we're from different places, but we check mark all the same damn boxes. Like, we're all subscribed to Subtle Asian Shirts on Facebook. Like, that's how similar we are with one another. I love that. Yes.
Lols.
Props to that. All right. So, Donna, do you have our fun fact for the day?
I do have a fun fact. So when I was younger, like I said before, I thought everyone was Asian. So I thought this singer, Elvis Presley, I thought he was Asian because he honestly looked, all his pictures are black and white, so I can't see color. And he was from Hawaii. And then there's like a lot of Hapas that live in Hawaii. So it kind of made sense. And like the people who introduced me to rock and roll were like my older grandmas and grandpas. And they're freaking Filipino. Like, how do these Filipino old people know American rock and roll? Like, it made sense that for me to think he was Asian.
Okay, justified, yeah.
He's not, but he's not. Now I know he's not Asian. Anyways, back to Elvis Presley. So when Elvis said, the reason why Elvis says, "Oh, Elvis has just left the building," is so because he doesn't have to do encores. Like, because he was a very popular, good-looking man, and like, imagine if he had to do encores, that shit will go on forever. But now, for them to say Elvis has now just left the building, they know for sure that they can't ask for encores because he damn left the building. Like, straight.
Where did you find this fun fact?
I think I saw it online, but I also kind of like Googled it. Like, why is it saying what Elvis has just left the building?
And then I realized that thought?
Because I was watching an Elvis documentary. Because when I was reading about Hawaii and they're talking about like people who from Hawaii and it was Elvis, and I watched an Elvis documentary and I was like, why do they say that? And then bam bam boop, fun fact. Donna has just left the podcast. Just kidding.
Wait, so Donna, what kind of Asian did you think he was? Because he didn't really look Asian to me.
I thought he was
mix.
Yeah, I thought he was a Hapa, half Japanese, half American, or like half Korean, half American. Because a lot of people who are living in Hawaii, they're Hapas, they're half Asian, half something else. So I just thought he was half, but I don't think he's even from Hawaii. I think he's from like another. Thinking of Full House, and they talk about Elvis a lot, but I think he had a tour in Hawaii, and I thought he was Hawaiian or Hapa from that. But that's when I was little. Like, I didn't know other places. I didn't realize. Now I know. I'm learned.
Today, years old.
Yeah.
Was today years old too.
But yes, Elvis has just left the building means he doesn't want to do any encores.
Got it. Well then, that's it for this podcast. We want to thank Harold Daniel for coming on to our podcast.
Thank you, Harold.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
First. Okay. All right. So yeah, hopefully we'll have more guest co-hosts to come in the future, but we'll see on the topic. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And Donna? We out, podcast people.
Podcast people. We out.
We out.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.